And now I'd like to welcome back to the channel after a pretty lengthy hiatus, recovering from a broken wrist, Frankie Muniz. Hey, Frankie, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Good to see you again. We didn't get a chance to talk last week after a 20th place result at Talladega. This week we go to Martinsville, and I was looking through Racing Reference. This is your second trip to Martinsville. You went there earlier this year. So kind of give me a sense of what you were thinking going in your second trip to the paperclip and what you were hoping to accomplish this weekend.
Yeah, I remember the first time just really being surprised by how you have to drive the truck there, like and what the racing's like. I didn't grow up doing short track racing like most, NASCAR drivers did, right? That's kind of where you start in like the late model stuff and kind of work your way up. So I don't have a lot of short track experience, and it's a completely different beast from anything. As a fan, as a viewer, before I started racing, I used to think they looked kind of boring. I don't know why I ever thought that because they are the furthest thing from boring. They are
Right.
the most intense racing I've ever been a part of because you're tight, it's fast, you barely get a straightaway to like breathe, and you're in the fight and you got to push people out of the way. And um so I was excited to go back, having learned what I learned the previous race. Granted, we had an issue happen that race. We were running pretty decent in the race, but had an issue and ended up retiring early. But I was excited to come back. So I went to sim at Ford on Thursday, and we had an amazing sim session, right?
Okay.
Like really kind of worked on it. I was fast. So I really showed up with a lot of confidence. And it's been an interesting thing for me this year. There's been a few places that I've shown up after having a really good sim session, and then I don't perform the way I thought I was going to, like I did in the sim. And then other times where I have a bad sim session and then we're really good in real life. And it's a weird thing I'm playing with because my wife, even after I finished the sim on Thursday, she goes, "How was that?" I was like, "Oh, it was probably one of my best sessions. Like it was really good." She's like, "So you're gonna be bad in the race tomorrow?" Like, it's like I don't know why I'm admitting that, but like it's one of those, it's just been a thing, like it's kind of like a trend that personally I'm seeing. So I showed up and practice. I think we were 31st, 32nd, whatever it was, but I felt like I was fairly close time wise. Like I knew I could do things to improve, especially with fresh tires, because I take a little bit too long to get up to speed. So like I do my fastest time when the tire is already gone. You know what I mean? Where
Right.
so yeah, so I felt I was happy, like I said, to get to go back to a place because I've had experience there. And I don't know, I came out of the box in practice, and I felt pretty good. I felt pretty good with what we had and what I thought I could do in the race and in qualifying.
Okay, so then the common theme that I heard starting in practice and then it carried over into qualifying and then actually into the race was he's got to go deeper into the corners, got to
Yeah.
go deeper. So this is your second time at the track. You've had that experience, as you said, you retired early. So going into this, you hear them, you talked about the sim session, you go in and then you hear Will is saying it over and over. You got to go deeper. You got to go deeper. So what is going through your mind when you keep hearing that?
I definitely was making strides with going deeper, but it's a really weird thing because like you go deeper, you've I feel like you got to hit the brake pedal harder, right, to get it to stop, and it gets sketchy like trying to get it down to make the corner. Because a few times I like wash up a little bit. There was one time I got really loose, like the rear locked up, and it to be honest, it sketched me out because then you go, ooh, I don't want to feel that again because I almost wrecked in practice, right? So then you almost revert and you back up, or I at least back up more than I should, you know what I mean? Just to be like, to not have that happen again. And that just has to do with like comfortability in the car. I don't have a ton of experience, like I said, on the short tracks to like understand what these things can take, right?
Right.
Because like I would brake and I'd release the brake and I would push up the track. So in my head, I'm over the limit because
Right.
I can't keep the truck or the car where I want it to be. So I've got to either back up my braking zone or slow down, hold the brake a little longer, slow down a little bit more. And, so I always think there's times where I've gotten out of sessions and I've got, man, I could have pushed harder. I did not feel that at all at Martinsville. Like I felt like I was driving my ass off
Hmm.
and was, like I said, we weren't that like we were like a tenth or two off of like a majority of the field. Like it would have we could have moved up 15 spots by going to, 2 tenths quicker in practice. So I felt like, okay, we're not that bad. We'll race good. Um, but I felt good. Like I got out of the car, I felt confident. You know what I mean? I felt okay. I looked at some S&T. I saw what, I think we looked at Lane Riggs, Majeski, a few of them. I saw what they were doing, and they were really only beating me on the brakes, right? We were good mid corner. I had really good exits. Um, so I was like, all right, that's easy. With new tires, I'll do it, and it's gonna be great. So I go out for qualifying, and normally when I'm sitting in the qualifying line, you start getting nervous, like anxious, right? You're like, okay, 3 away, 2 away, 1 away. Then you're sitting there waiting for the guy to like send you, and your heart rate starts going up because you got to do it, you got to perform in that moment. And I oddly did not have that at all at Martinsville. And I started to think that that's like to a detriment. You know what I mean? Like I need that little bit of that fire or whatever you want to call it inside, or that nervousness to like go perform. Because I go out, I warmed up the way I wanted. I come, I take the green, I get into turn one, I go through, I get a good exit. I knew the second lap would probably be faster, just getting everything up to temperature. I go and I get done with the lap. And in my mind, I went, that was good.
Hmm.
Like that was a good lap. Because normally I go, oh, I got to power too soon. I got a little loose. I had to lift out of the throttle. Like there's something. And I go, those were good. Like I feel like I did what I wanted. And when I don't know who came on the radio and told me the time, I was like, there's no way. Because like I just drove that so much better, so much harder than I drove at all in practice. But I did the same exact time on new tires, taped up, and everybody else went 7 tenths of a second faster than their practice time, if not more. That hurt. Because normally I can look at myself and I go, damn, I didn't get all of it. I could have pushed more, I could have released the brake. I really truly felt like I did a good lap and it was awful. You know? Um, so that one stung more than most. Most, like I said, I can go, oh, I know what I needed to do different next time. I really don't know what I needed to do different to go faster because I felt like I did it. So it was a in between qualifying and the race was a weird moment of reflection for me because like I couldn't pinpoint why I was so far off. Yeah.
Interesting. So then we get to the race, and I know Will said over the radio, let's try and avoid going a lap down if possible, because I remember that happened in the first race. So then we get the race started, and it's 7 laps in. We have a caution, and you come over the radio. I think you said you missed the shift, but then you said there's no grip overall, which obviously it was cold. Everybody was complaining about it, but you talked about it was like ice. So tell me what that feeling was like those first few laps around the track.
Yeah, you only get the 20-minute practice session,
Right.
and it's always at a way different time than what you're with it being like 1 day events. Like you're usually racing in the, or you're practicing in the heat of the day and then you're racing at night. It definitely cools down. It's going to change what the truck, how it handles and all that. Um, I was surprised, I didn't know what gear to start in, as weird as that sounds, because like this gearing's so short there. And I normally start in second gear, but I've watched like Majeski, like his in-car, and they start in first gear at like Bristol and certain places. And I'm like, how do you not just you could be in third gear and literally just spin the tires, you know what I mean, with the pace car. So I'm like, I don't know how they do that. So I think I started in second gear. And when you're starting further back, the green flag comes out. You're still like way in the corner. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like you're just trying to like fight it and get the power down. And I literally I was like sideways trying to like catch it, and then I tried to shift. I missed the shift. It wasn't a good start for me. You know what I mean? But it made me go, okay, I'm just going to start in third gear, especially being back here because it stacks up so much, right? They're not going to get away from me, but it's going to stack up so much when you get to the corner. Like it's better just to have a nice clean getaway than potentially like wrecking trying to,
Right.
get the power down with the wrong gear. So, yeah, but initially, like I don't know if it was a mixture of track conditions or just how much the balance changed from practice to at night, but it was as if there was oil on the racetrack. But I think I said that too. I think I said on the radio, I was like, it's literally as if oil's on the racetrack, but everyone else is going, right? No one else is slipping around.
Right.
But I'm like literally just sawing at the wheel, catching it. Um, so we came in and made an adjustment. We actually, our strategy was we're only going to pit once. We either were going to pit at the end of stage one or we're going to pit at the end of stage two, depending on where we were. Like if we got a lap down and we could get the wave around in stage one, we would stay out and then pit the second one or whatever. But we were only going to come one time. I think we pit 7 times or 8 times
Wow.
during the race. Like we were in the pit a lot, just making adjustments, making changes, and all that. One thing I know you probably have a lot of questions, but one thing I thought was really weird were there were like runs where I was good. Like we were in the fight, we were battling, and the truck was coming. I was catching everybody, or I was passing people, or whatever it was. And then their caution would come out, and I'd be behind the pace car. We wouldn't come in and make a change because I thought the truck was good. And then the next run, it was as if I was in a completely different vehicle because like it was nothing like it was the previous 10 laps or whatever it was. And I saw Tyler Ankrum do an interview after the race, and he was saying something similar. He was like, the heat cycle, so like the tires being really hot and then they cool down during the yellow, and you go back out. He's like, it affected the balance so much. I'm like, okay, so it was that, you know what I mean? So it was a really interesting thing because like I want to give good feedback to the team to make sure
Sure.
we're making the right adjustments, but I couldn't believe how much it changed depending on how many laps were under caution or whatever, or how long the run was. And it was pretty wild.
Well, I actually have that in my notes because in that first stage, you guys got a penalty for too many crew members over the wall. And then at the end of the stage, you said I had, and I could hear you were passing cars, and you said that run felt really good. So it was in the end of that first stage, and then you go to the stage break, and then we come out for stage two, and I think that's when you started talking about there were struggles. But I thought that was kind of interesting. We've talked about it throughout the season how the truck series, this is the series where there's attrition, and this year there hasn't been attrition. But in this race, there turned out to be some attrition. So Raja goes down, has that early stage caution in stage two. And so kind of give me a sense what it was like, kind of the choppiness. There's so many different cautions for different incidents going on through the stage through the race. So what's that like for you trying to get in a flow, knowing that this run was really good, that one wasn't? So kind of give me an
Yeah.
idea of what it's like.
Yeah. I the race that we got on Friday is the racing I more expected throughout the whole year, as far as like there being incidents and people falling out of the race, or you get a chance to regroup, you get a chance to come in the pit like we did, make some adjustments, and we really haven't had that happen a lot this year. You know what I mean? Like they've been
Sure.
very clean, good races, but fairly clean for the truck series. I remember 2 years ago why I didn't want to go truck series racing in 2024 was I was like, why? So we just get wrecked because it's just like a wreck fest. Like 2023 season was, or yeah, 2023 season was insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but yeah, raced really clean. I didn't mind it because it allowed me to continue to come in and make changes or regroup. We've very rarely been lucky this season. And this race, we had a lot of really lucky breaks with the timing of the cautions. Like Brent Crew, I don't remember when it was in the race. He was leading the race. I think it was in stage three. And, we're on the lead lap still. And he was right on my bumper about to pass me. And the caution came out.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, we got to break because this is the things you always talk about. Or like, we just went a lap down at one point. There was a long run. There was one long run, like a 40 lap run. And we just went down a lap by Corey Heim, and the caution came out. I got the lucky dog. Yes. Like those are the things that you need every once in a while,
Sure.
especially on a short track. You know what I mean? Like you need that, and we've very rarely gotten those breaks, and we got a few in this race. So I was happy for the incidents when they happened because it allowed us to kind of stay closer into the pack.
Okay, so one other thing that I noted from stage two was you mentioned because Casey Mears was making his 600 start, his first or 600 NASCAR start, his first Truck Series start. But then you mentioned how he was your favorite driver and he was your neighbor. So the whole thing was like, this is so weird. His first truck start, he used to be neighbors. You talked to him about doing ARCA. So kind of give me a little bit of
Yeah.
background on your relationship with Casey Mears.
Yeah, so I mean, I was a huge fan of his. Mostly I've always loved number 13, and he drove that Geico number 13 for a long time. And I just always liked him. I don't know, I didn't root for a lot of guys, but he was one who I'd always kind of see where he was. And in 20 was my son born? 2021, we bought a house, and the next door was Casey Mears here in Scottsdale. I had no idea that he lived there. And, at that point, like I hadn't started racing again, but I was just about to start doing the late model stuff. And I had called, we had met each other outside the houses and we talked a little bit. And, he gave me his number, and I called him one time and I was just asking about like, because I just didn't know what was normal in the ARCA world or the stock car world of even what teams charge, or what are good teams and what's the difference. And he was always just really kind of open to chatting with me about it. He had mentioned, I remember this was a few years ago, that he was a few starts away from 500 career cup starts, and that he was trying to figure out a way to get that, like to make that happen.
Mhm.
Which is kind of cool to see him, you know, getting there. But yeah, no, I was behind him under one of the cautions, and I just saw his name, and I was like, it's just so weird. I've thought it a few times, like when I'm racing against Kyle Larson, when I'm racing against Kyle Busch, like you go like, this is weird, like I shouldn't be here. Um, and I just had that thought, and I've never really talked about it, and for some reason I was in a talkative mood to Will, and was telling this story. But yeah, no, just a cool guy, and talked to him before the race and after the race, and we battled a lot during this race. Like he was a
Right.
lap down, but like we were always like side by side and kind of battling. So it was fun, it was fun to. I apologized to him after the race because there was a few times where like I like came down right when Will was saying inside, and I was like, oh man, I totally just chopped him. I was like, sorry about that. He's like, no problem.
Okay, so then in that third stage, a couple notes I have. One of them was they said I think it was your engineer said you're still overbraking both corners, and that's where you're losing most of your time, less overall pressure on the brakes. So I know the pedal can get soft there because you're using the brakes so much. So kind of tell me what was going on at that point in the race.
Yeah, I mean, we did see that in practice and qualifying. Like, it wasn't necessarily that I was braking too early, right? Like, I was going as deep as everybody, like on my fast laps, but I would, if, they're hitting the brake with 1,000 pounds of pressure, I don't know, or, 800 pounds of pressure, I'm hitting it with 1,000 pounds of pressure, right? Like, just like really hard. Um, But I felt like I had to. I like to get it to be slowed down to make the corner. I felt like I had to. So it's a hard thing. I know that they're looking at SMT. They can see what other cars and other trucks, other drivers are doing. But it's one thing to like see it on it, like the data, and then go, oh, you need to do this. And it's definitely a different thing being in the car and like knowing what you're feeling and like what you think you can do and what you can't do, right? Um, I like sure I've struggled a lot of places this year at times. Um, I don't have a lot of short track experience, but I think back to like my ARCA year sometimes. And I was talking to Will Rogers about it after qualifying. I don't think I ever qualified more than like 2 or 3 tenths off Jesse Love, who's like an amazing driver. And he was in a Venturini car. You know what I mean? Like in the best equipment. I was always fairly close. Where like this year I've had some pretty big, like here I was 1.2 seconds off, like on a 19-second lap. That's an eternity. You know what I mean? It should never be the case. Um, I have to remind myself what I did sometimes in ARCA to remind myself that I know what I'm doing,
Sure.
right? Like
Yeah.
I know how to drive. I know how to do it. I just need to either get back into that mindset or I just need to do it. Or, maybe we need to work on the truck a little bit or balance or find different things that I need that work. Um, you know, I this one was weird because I couldn't blame anything other than like I felt like the truck was pretty good balance wise, and I felt like I was driving it like if no one else was around, I set the track record every single lap. You know what I mean? Because like it felt good. Like I didn't feel
Right.
like I was not being aggressive or not pushing hard. So yeah, going back to that, like I hear them and you're trying to implement it. So I think I started to, but then I've almost missed the corner, right? So like if I almost missed it, I'm like, if I can't make the corner, like I've got to do what I'm doing to even do what I'm doing, right? Like there's that fine line. The one thing that I did start taking in was release the brake, like let it roll in like the center a little bit more. And like that's just your mind, right? Because you're thinking I got to slow, 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 slow. And before, like a second before or half a second before you think you need to lift, like you have to force yourself off the brake just to let it roll that 1 or 2 mile an hour more through the center. And it takes it. It took it. So like I started doing that and got better like mid corner speed. But yeah, I was really just losing on the brakes, which usually is an easy way to pick up time, right? Like if you go, oh, they're just braking later. Okay, just instead of braking at the 2 cone, break at the 1.5 or another car length deeper, and you can easily pick up that time. I just couldn't make it happen this weekend for some reason, and I'm still not 100% sure why I couldn't.
Okay. So then you mentioned a few minutes ago, you got the lucky dog on lap 154. Um, then you talked about again, it was interesting to hear kind of like go back and forth. This run, it was too tight, didn't feel as good as the previous run. But then there was a moment toward the end where you talked about Crafton said he was going to punch me in the face. So I went back and listened to the previous interview that we did, our last interview, and you had talked about you didn't care that Crafton was retiring. So I remembered there was some animosity there,
Oh
and
yeah, he
you
heard
t-
the interview.
okay, okay, so you said, do you think he would do it with his car? Like, would he punch you with his car? And then you said, if he does, I'm definitely fighting. Pedro says, if you don't, you drop on the totem pole for me. And you said, oh, I'm fighting, bro. So I got Frankie in the fighting mode again. So talk to me about what's going on there.
Yeah, no, I'm probably gonna get myself. I got one more week with him, so maybe he'll hear this and I will get punched in the face. No, he went up to Josh, the team owner. So like, I don't know when we were talking about that, but that next week, I think it was the first week I was hurt, and
Okay.
he went up to Josh and he goes, Josh, he's like, I like you, but I'm gonna punch your driver in the face, right? So I've been kind of like walking around the garage, like waiting, because I know he likes to sneak attack, like sneak Nick Sanchez, like he's not gonna like face you, he's gonna do it from the side or something. But I'm Agent Cody Banks, so I got eyes on the back of my head. All right, I got all those fighting moves still. Um, no, so I heard that actually last week in Talladega we had a Ford drivers meeting, right? Like to talk strategy, and we were all there, all the Ford drivers, and we were waiting for Crafton to come. And everyone, like the Ford guys, are like, "Oh, has anyone heard from Crafton? Is he coming? Like, should we wait for him?" And like a few of them were texting, and I was like, sitting there going, "Oh boy, like, now he's gonna do it here in the Ford trailer," you know. But he didn't end up showing up, so maybe he was just too scared. He was too. Oh God, I gotta stop talking. I'm joking, by the way. I'm just trying to be
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
I'm a comedian. Um, no, so yeah, I was right behind him under that yellow, and I know he had a little bit of an issue because I'd passed him on track. Like I don't know if like something he had a tire going down or something because he just went really slow and backed up a bunch. But because then we got the lucky dog, I had to go to the tail end. I was right behind him again, and I was thinking like, well, his race is pretty much already over as far as like being in the. I don't know where he was, but like I knew he'd gotten lapped or whatever, and I was thinking is he willing to sacrifice his race just to ruin mine more? You know what I mean? That's kind of the thought process of being like, would he take it out of me on the racetrack? What he said he was going to do off the track, outside the car. But no, I was just, joking around with my guys because they know that I'm looking over my shoulder for Crafton.
That's funny. That's a funny story. All right.
I think I said, I'll lose the fight. Like, I know it's not a fight I'll win, right? He's
Right.
bigger than me. I've never really been in a fight. He's been a lot. I don't, I'll just keep my helmet on. It's the only way I probably have to survive, pulling
That's
tight
fun.
gears.
All right. So then toward the end of the race, I noticed, I mean, just like we talked about before the attrition, you kept moving up. So I think it was like you were 26th, then you move up to 24th, then you go to 22. And then in the final, when those final restarts, you're like I think you were like 17th or 18th on that final restart. So kind of give me a sense, you get a 20th last week at Talladega. We're thinking, all right, maybe another top 20 result going into this final restart. So give me a sense of what you're thinking in that final.
Yeah, I remember being very happy that we were where we were because, I wasn't there because of speed. You know what I mean? I wasn't there because but it was the race that we need, right? It's the race those are the type of races we've needed all year. Like the places that we're not necessarily like ultra competitive, but we get lucky with the breaks and we're not involved in the incidents and we're there at the end because there's a lot of guys who that's all they've done this year and they're way up higher in the points than me. Not that they've like been spectacular at anywhere specific. They've just gotten those breaks and been there at the end where it matters. If we had a few of those this year, right? Like of the 10 or 12 races we had issues, you know what I mean? If half of them we didn't and we finished 20th, 19th, 20th, we're in a completely different situation as a team, like the way we feel and points wise. I'd be way past the 5, way past the 76. Like we'd be in a much better position there, but we just never got that opportunity in a sense to have that type of race. So I was excited. I also thought, okay, green, white checker. I know that there's a few guys up there that have to win this race or have to like, I thought we were going to get another one. Like I didn't think that the racing was over. They told me to choose the inside, which made me actually go back two spots because the 13 and the 26 then got in front of me because of the way that, you know, um, choosing went. And then I think the 41 and the 45 were behind me or someone. I don't remember. But to be honest, I wasn't aware who was on the same lap as me. Because I knew the 69, I knew the 02, I knew a bunch of the 44, a bunch of the cars that I've been racing most of the race with were a lap down, right? Like we weren't on the same lap, but we were battling each other for nothing. But I knew they weren't on my lap. So we start. I get a good start, a good restart. I'm right there. I'm hitting the guy in front of me. I'm pushing them. Go through turn 3 and 4. It's clean. Nothing. Okay, we get the white flag. I go, okay, next flag ends it, right? Either we're gonna finish the race or there's gonna be a wreck right now. Nothing happens. I get to turn 3 and 4, and Bailey Curry hit me. I don't know if he thought like I was the leader and he was in second and he was like had to make sure he won. I don't like he wrecked us basically. Hit us really hard into the 41 and I ended up losing like 2 or 3 spots in the last corner. But even at that point I still didn't realize that they were like who was where in the running order. So when I found out that like they were on the same lap as me, it made me mad because I was like I mean I was not being aggressive. I was being aggressive, but like I don't know. I didn't know I was like trying to defend from them. I don't know. I don't know. Like, so I was a little bummed because I think we could have had another top 20, which would have been great. Happy with 23rd, 100%. I shouldn't be, but I am, based on how uh, our season's gone and stuff like that with like just bad luck. Like, it was cool to get to run all the laps. I finished on the lead lap. It was, um, it was the first lead lap finish of a Reaume Brothers Racing truck on a short track in history of the team.
Wow.
So feels like a good accomplishment. Like, I've got a few RBR records this year. Atlanta was the closest they've ever been to pole as far as like time gap.
Okay.
Um, and then that the first short track lead lap finish. So I thought that was pretty nice.
No, what? I mean, it was watching, as you mentioned, the cautions had to fall the right time. You get the lucky dog, but
Yeah.
watching it and having followed your season as closely as I have, you can see those things. You're like, oh, he did get a break this time. Whereas,
Yeah.
as we were talking about earlier in the year, it was one thing after another not going your way. So things were falling your way in this particular race. So you finished 23rd. It's obviously a big improvement. I think you finished 32nd or 31st earlier in the year on the previous trip to Martinsville. So you finished 23rd. Now we have the final race of the season this coming weekend in Phoenix. So kind of give me a sense of what you're thinking after Martinsville going into this final race of the 2025 campaign.
I mean, I really want to end on a strong note. You know what I mean? Even in practice, in qualifying, I want to be there. Like I want to be close, right? I'm not saying I got to qualify 10th. I just want to be within striking distance of the times, like of the majority of the field. And I think we can do that. We've got my Texas truck is the first time I'm using it since Texas. Our best truck. We were waiting because NASCAR is changing the bodies for the Truck Series next year. So every body has to be taken off and rehung with new rules. So we didn't fix it for a long time, waiting because they were talking about maybe doing it during that 3-week break, making like mid-season. And so they didn't, finally put the body on for one more race. And so I know we got a strong truck. I'm excited. I got Lone Star Casino on the truck. It's a new sponsor that is looking to hopefully this will be the first of maybe a longer term partnership. But I just want to end on a really strong note. I'm going to be aggressive. I got to be. And that's one thing that Will Rogers and I talk about all the time. He's like, there's something in you that I've got to figure out how to get out of you because you can drive at 110%, and I've seen it, and you do it well. He's like, but then you get to where you drive at 90%, and like you're like okay with that. He's like, there's no one else here that's driving at 90% ever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I don't know what it is of why I do that because it's true. Like I get in where I go like, all right, I'll be fighting and I'll be like super competitive, and then like the next run, I'm like, just we're good right here. Like why? No one else thinks they're good where they are. You know what I mean? Like they're all fighting, doing qualifying laps every run. So I've got to figure that out. That's more of like a mental, like internal
Mhm.
thing. And that's a big thing I am going to focus on this year, this off season is just the mental preparation, and just kind of trying to find what I need to keep that fire. You know what I mean? For all 200 laps or whatever it is, for sure.
Well, Frankie, I appreciate your time. It's nice to catch up with you and talk again. And I look forward to talking to you next week after the final race of the season at Phoenix.
Sounds good. Talk to
Thanks.
you then.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
See ya.